Hello everyone, welcome back to Natalie's Witchy Wisdom. This is the last video that I will be doing for this Another Urine a Day series. For those of you that are just tuning in, this is the book. I realize it's backwards, sorry, but this was the first edition of the new book that Timothy Roderick produced. He has been a very active part of this group, and I appreciate that very much, because without his guidance and clarification on the items in the book, I think some of us might have lost a few important and key things, myself particularly. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Roderick, for participating in our Facebook group and for helping us and guiding us through this book so that we can truly understand the things that are in this series and truly grow spiritually from them. Let me adjust the camera just a little bit. As you can see, I am in my office today. I have some dragon's blood incense. It's been a toxic week, and I am trying to release a lot of the negativity that I've been seeing going on. I'm not going to talk about any of that right now. So, going into this last lunation, the 13th lunation cycle of the book, we're actually starting the last lunation. Our final days are in the waxing moon cycle. We are having a super moon on Tuesday the 14th, and as such, I have chosen that date to do my elevation ritual. I will be participating in the elevation ritual. And what is discussed in this last lunation is building on to the understanding of the 5 points of fellowship and the spiritual commands that go with the planets, the planetary commands and sigils that go with that. I went over that in the last video, so I'm not going to do a lot on that in terms of, sorry, we're going to the waning moon cycle, but actually okay, I'm screwed up. Yeah, we're going into the waxing moon cycle for the final few days, but that being the case, we're going to have the supermoon on Tuesday, and again, that's when I'm going to do my final. Sunday, I will be observing my final day of silence, but I've already read over and reviewed all of the information, and so I'm wanting to go over that with you guys, since I won't have another opportunity to do the video. Okay, going into our second degree preparation for these final days, and we've been studying a lot of very deep spiritual information, the planetary commands, the sigils that we create, understanding on a deeper level our relationship with deity and divinity and to one another, really. So building on that, when we were in the 7th lunation, we made a personal vow, and I'm going to go back and reread my personal vow, if I can find it, in my lovely journal that the lovely Julie Deskins made for me. Again, sparkly purple owls, I love it. And I am looking, I had it in here at some point. Okay guys, I am sorry. It's been a really stressful week. I'm truly wishing I had a glass of wine sitting next to me right now, but I'm working, as you can see, so not gonna happen. Okay, and I guess I'm not going to find my vow. I tried to mark the page and I didn't. Oh, here it is. Okay, 7th lunation. Going back to the 7th lunation, we chose a personal vow. And my personal vow, going back and looking at all of my things, my personal vow was that, for those of you that don't remember, don't want to go back and look, we had to do a meditation which revealed to us a specific image. What would you see on your epitaph? And I saw very simply that she loved, because I've always loved people. I've always loved animals. I've always loved nature. I think love is the most powerful force out there, and I have always tried to live in love. And so my vow to myself, and I don't think I shared this in the 7th lunation video, was that I will always love openly, passionately, and strongly. My actions will always be governed by love. I will communicate, think, and act with love. And sometimes love is tough. And I think that's what people forget, is everybody thinks love is sweet and kind and wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes when you love something or someone, you have to make a tough decision. You let it go. You act in a way that they think you're acting against them when you may not be, that sort of thing. So acting in love is not always a good thing. And I'm thinking specifically of my child right now. She's, I've told her no to something, and I've gone and done, I've had to do some things that she feels are against her, and they're not really against her. It's because I can look forward and see the future, and I know that what she was wanting was not going to be good for her long term. And sometimes that's tough because people don't always understand. Sometimes it's much later down the line that they understand why you did some of the things that you did, and that you were indeed acting in love, and that you weren't doing it to purposely hurt them or anger them or insult them, or, so anyhow. But that was my personal vows. So now we're going to talk about equating that to the elements, and that's going to tie right into this particular topic. I'm going to be referring to my journal and to the book, so if you see me looking away, that's what it is. We had to look at the different elements and how that related to our personal vow. For me, with air, it was I will communicate my opinions, teach, and judge with love. And judge is I don't want that term to be misunderstood, because in life you must make judgments. There is a very big difference in making judgments and in being judgmental. You have to make judgments about things in life. Every decision you make comes from a judgment that you made. That is very different than being judgmental, which means to unfairly view someone's actions or state of being based on your own prejudices. So I don't want to get those two terms confused. Fire. I will share my love through physical activity, such as loving yourself. Loving yourself means taking care of yourself, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not talking about what a Christian might think loving yourself is about, although sometimes that's necessary too. I'm talking about love of self in terms of taking care of yourself, getting rid of negative attitudes about yourself, because if you are not in a good place about yourself, you are not going to be prepared to take on or help or heal others. Water. I will love with emotions, hospitality, empathy, and devotion. I will share my love with compassion and joy. Earth. I will express my love passionately, but in an even-tempered way. Spirit. I will share love by fostering harmony, simplicity, and peace. So then, of course, we had to draw our little pentagram. I may have actually shared that. So all of those things now go into making the great vow, which is a vow that we make to the witchy community, to ourselves, and to our deity when we are preparing to take the second degree level of initiation, or in this case, private ritual. I am a solitary practitioner. I don't know of a coven in the area. I know of seed groups. I know of pagan groups. I don't know of a coven in the area. And quite frankly, I've never really fit in with a coven. With any group of people, I can't see how I would fit in with a coven, because I'm always that friend that gets called when somebody needs advice and guidance or information or help, but I'm always the last person that people call for a party, to get together, to go do things, to spend time with. And so I'm the one that, we can all go to the amusement park, but I'll be the one walking behind the rest of the crowd carrying everybody else's shit. And that's the way it's always been for me. So I almost prefer to be solitary, although that might seem like it goes a little contrary to my vow to love. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stick to yourself. That's showing self-love, because then you're not being used. So going into taking the second degree ritual, the day of silence that I'll be observing, we are supposed to focus our attention on whatever it is that creates feelings of gratitude for you. Stay focused on those aspects of your life for the entirety of the day, acting from this sense of appreciation, and then take time to journal. I'm actually going to be doing this activity on Sunday, because Sunday is the day where I don't have to work, I don't have to see clients. I do have my family, and I may have to spend some time in communication with them, but I really want to spend that day in meditation and reflection, because with the upcoming supermoon, I want to participate in the ritual. So I'm going to step back just a little bit and look at preparing the great vow. And so let me turn back my pages, because that's what I wanted to really get into in this video. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm having some trouble with my book today, with my hands, with my brain. Good golly, Miss Molly. Okay, So preparing for the second degree ritual and taking the great vow, and Mr. Roderick tells us on page 264, typically the great vow is one that holds you to a higher standard in the Wiccan or witch community. No longer are you doing your magical practice solely for yourself and for your personal development. The second degree indicates a certain degree of mastery of the craft, and thus it indicates a time of sharing your magical prowess with the broader community. And this brings me to a really, really, really important point. If you are subscribed to Witches of the Moon, you know that this week was also our week to choose your own topic. And in choosing our own topic, I chose one that I felt was important that hinged on an interview I heard on International Pagan Radio with David Wood and Alexander Cabot. If I can figure it out, I will try to link that maybe in the comments or something. So if you want to watch that video, you can. But it kind of goes against what are considered traditional witch or Wiccan values for a lot of people. And what I want to talk about is silence. We have one of the great tenets of witchcraft is silence, and that dates back to, or goes back to, the time when things were kept secret. You had certain people in the community that knew certain things and carried certain skills and abilities, and they kept those secret to themselves, and they passed them on only to certain people that they chose. Then you had the burning times when witches were being persecuted, when people who practiced the healing arts or the witchcraft, or, whatever you want to call it, the folk craft or whatever, were persecuted and burned at the stake for being witches or tortured or whatever. And so silence was very important, because that meant that you were preserving yourself, your family, your friends, and people that were coming to you. That being said, those times really are past us now. And I think that the vow of silence, or keeping silence in certain respects, needs to be set aside. And what do I mean by that? Well, obviously, there are certain secrets of the craft which we keep within ourselves. Certain rituals, beliefs, and things that we do not share openly with the public, because they are things that are kept personal to identify you and keep you from separate from other people's or what have you. That being said, the craft in general has a lot of misalignment because people do not understand it. And I think that the time to educate the populace and the public is really at hand. That in order to really make a difference in our communities, we need to be actively involved and engaged in the communities. And therefore, communities need to understand, what does it mean to be a witch? What are the tenets of witchcraft? Why are people drawn to it? Why do we practice it? What does it mean exactly? And in doing so, that means we're going to have to break that vow of silence. We have to get out there and educate the public. So in doing so, I have taken on a specific vow. And my personal vow is that I would always live in love and peace openly. Today, in preparation, I am preparing to taking on a new vow, a great vow, one that will be binding between myself, my community, my fellow brothers and sisters, you all viewing this video, and the community as a whole, not just the witchy community. This is a vow that I'm taking to make a difference within the community at large, as well as the witchy community. And wow, this is an interesting bit of music to come on about this point in time. I don't know if y'all can hear the music I have going on in the background, but this is pretty incredible. In fact, what is it? It is The Emerald Way. Interesting. The Emerald Way. Okay. So, in considering our great vow, we were asked to make a personal commitment to the gods. In my case, Morrigan and Cernunnos. Those are the two deities that I align with. And we were given some ideas of what our great vow should be. And I went back and looked at how I applied that, my personal vow, to the various elements, because I want something that's going to be inclusive of all of the elementals. And so I made some little markings to myself about how my vow, my personal vow, can become a great vow by incorporating all of these various aspects and taking it within the community. So although I haven't actually penned my great vow into words yet, these are things that I am considering in my great vow for the element of air, which is the one that I feel I align with more strongly. Even though I find aspects of all of the elements that I align with, the element of air is the one that keeps coming up for me. In my profession, I'm a speech language pathologist, and the element of air aligns with communication and working in those areas. And so it's something that I very strongly align to. So sharing knowledge, obviously I'm already doing that. I have a personal channel here, which you are watching. I have taken on these roles in the last 2 year and a day programs. The first time kind of by default, and this time by choice. I forwarded this idea and wanted a second year group, and I didn't mind doing these videos, and I love to do these videos because I love to share what I'm learning. I like to get the feedback. I like to see what people know and if people are interpreting things the same way that I do. So in a way, it is teaching and guiding and mentoring. I actually had someone that came to me this week that told me she sees me as a mentor and she appreciates my willingness to answer questions in all hours of the day. And it kind of took me aback because it wasn't a role I saw myself in, but I'm coming to see myself in that role more and more. And I love to teach. I love to share what I know. I think sharing knowledge is what we are supposed to do with one another. And it was something that when I was in college, I was in an education department for a while. I actually have a second master's in deaf education, and so teaching comes, I think, naturally to me. And so for the element of fire, oh, by the way, yes, Under Air was also speaking on behalf of your community on the radio, television, spiritual research, which I would love. I've actually been kind of talking to my husband about wanting to pursue a second PhD when I finish this one in divinity, and he kind of rolled his eyes. But it's really important to me. I am an ordained minister. Many of you may not know that, but I am ordained by the Universal Life Church, and so participating in ritual is something that's important to me, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Fire is building community, leading and creating spiritual events, leading bonfire ceremonies, house cleansings, etc. I have already done a few house cleansings by request for some clients of mine that know I am a practicing witch and have asked me to come out and do cleansings because the entire family was suffering from some sort of negative bond, and they had a family member who was angry that had a friend that was a practicing witch that liked to dabble in the darker side of things and perform malediction, and they were afraid that perhaps some malediction had been given to them. So they had asked me to come in and do house cleansing. So that is something I have already been involved in. I think in a way I've also been involved in leading through taking on Witches of the Moon when the former leaders have left the channel. The channel was left to me, and so I have tried to take a guiding role in that channel. So I feel that I've been doing that, and in doing so I feel I've been part of building community. So that is something I've already taken on. In terms of the element of water, promoting wisdom and doing divinations, as many of you know, I'm empathic and I already do divination. I do readings. I do things like that. I do spiritual mediumship for others. I have always been empathic. I've always been able to pick up on things that people have needed spiritually, and it's been a gift and sometimes a curse. I know when people are in need instinctively, and I reach out to them and let them know, hey, I love you. You need to know you're loved today. And that's usually the way in which I reach out to people, because that's typically what I feel they need. And I think I've shared, I don't know if I shared on this channel or through this series at some point, or on my personal channel through Witches of the Moon, but I have had coworkers that one day I walked in and the coworker I'm thinking of was out doing an evaluation. I didn't have an evaluation that day. My team didn't, but hers did. And I turned and I looked at her cubicle, and for some reason I was compelled to write her a note on a sticky. Hey, just wanted you to know that I thought of you today and that you are loved. And I put it on her desk, and I went off for an evaluation I had at a later time, because we did evaluations at 9 and at 10 o'clock, or at 8 and 10. Sorry, 8 and 10. She had an 8 o'clock. I didn't. I had a 10 o'clock. She didn't. So I come back, and she cornered me, and I didn't put my name or anything on it. I don't know how she knew it was me, but she knew it was me, and she cornered me and said, "How did you know?" And I said, excuse me? And she goes, how did you know that I needed to hear that today? And she broke down and started crying. It turns out that she had lost a child that day, a newborn, a pregnancy that was much wanted. And she lost the baby that particular day. It was a very difficult day for her. And the words were just what she needed to hear. And so that I've always taken to heart. It's something that I didn't get kind of emotional about, because I knew then that I was making a difference for that person, and listening to my voice and taking on my empathy, I had made a positive change for that young lady for that day, for a day that she really needed to hear it. And so whenever I hear that little voice, I always answer. Water, promoting wisdom here, sharing this on the channel, promoting these groups, working with, I think that's promoting wisdom. Earth, energetic healing of others, counseling, providing rites of passage as requested, public rituals, ecological involvement, earth stewardship, and holistic healing arts. I've always been interested in healing, pranic healing, or pranic healing, however you want to pronounce it. I am a 3rd degree Reiki master. It's not something that I do a lot of in terms of being asked to, or sharing an energetic exchange or an exchange rate for doing that. I would like to get more into it and do more of it. I do a lot of it for my family and my friends. It's not something I do as a public whole. I don't promote it overly, although I do have on Fiverr, the app Fiverr, I have put on Reiki healings for the exchange of $5. It's not something, healing is something that I don't want to charge a lot for, because I don't want to overdo it for people. But energy exchange does need something, and it drives me bonkers when people say that you shouldn't be paid for healing. That's not necessarily true. But I do love to create teas and do herbal healings for people. I want to get certified in an herbalism course. I'm having trouble convincing my husband that that's an expense that's worthwhile at this point in time. So I've been trying to get my divinations up and gain some monetary exchange for that, so that I can put those funds towards being able to take the courses that I want to take in order to forward the spiritual learning that I want to do, because I don't have the support of my husband in doing that. So the PhD in divination, the herbalism course to provide further healing and to get a better understanding and knowledge of how to use that. I think it's very important. Earth stewardship, obviously, being a part of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids, this is important to me. And so those are all things, aspects, and elements that I am trying to organize in my mind to create my great vow. And during my day of silence on Sunday is when I plan on sitting down and trying to pen that great vow, or during the day Tuesday. It's going to be a difficult day for me Tuesday, because it's important to me to do the ritual during the supermoon. I feel like taking that energy and drawing down the moon and drawing down those energies is going to be very important to me in elevating myself to the 2nd degree. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I have appreciated everything that you guys have done in participation. Before I end this video, I do want to go a little further, because we had a great vow guided imagery, and I don't know how you guys have been going through these guided imageries, but I love to record them and then sit down with my incense, with my crystals. I am carrying this beautiful selenite sphere, which I want to share with you guys. This was gifted to me by the lovely Michelle Breslin. Ketty, Michelle, thank you so much. This week has been a great thing for me. I've been sleeping with it under my pillow for the past few weeks, because someone has been sending some negative energy my way, and I think I finally cornered down who it was, and it was somebody who was pretending to be trying to help me. And now that I have eliminated that individual from my life, things have gotten better significantly. I'm actually not waking up between 3 and 4 in the morning anymore, and I'm sleeping through the night. I'm feeling rested when I wake up, and I'm having lucid, vivid, wonderful dreams instead of nightmares, and it's been great. Anyhow, going forward, I like to record these imageries, and we were asked to do a guided imagery in which we met with deity and gained guidance on our great vow. And I want to talk about the questions that were covered. Based on what the deity requested of me, what is considered my greatest talent? And again, it was weird, because in this guided imagery, it was odd because the response wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting words, and what I got was breath in my face. So that was unusual because I actually physically felt it. It was strange. But that told me that my greatest talent is communication, but not necessarily just through words. We communicate in a lot of various ways. But air, the breath, that was what guided me back to this. Do I consider this an area of strength for me, or is it an area that might require some ongoing development? Both. I do feel it's a strength, but I think there's always room for development and improvement in our communication. Improving that, improving your involvement and how you utilize that skill, there's always room for improvement. How might my life look if I were to offer this gift as part of a vow? Combining that with my love and living in love and redefining love for myself, it could greatly transform my life. It may be that while keeping a foothold in my current profession, I may be branching out professionally in some way, in other ways, or at least in a semi or paraprofessional way, going beyond YouTube and going beyond just the community as it is currently that I'm involved in. I may have to branch out and really seek out within the larger community. Is living by this vow important to me? Absolutely, it's important to me because our vows and our religion guides our lives. And my definition of religion is very different than other people's. I don't know that religion necessarily is defined by a divinity or the divine or how you relate to the divine, because you might be atheistic and still be very religious or have a religion. And what I mean by that is your religion is the principles and guide that and thoughts and beliefs that guide the way you live your life. How you live your life is your religion. Okay? So in that way, living this vow is so key and important to me. And that's why I'm taking my time in writing it down and why I'm not sharing it with you here, because I also think that it's something personal that needs to stay between me and my divine. It's like my spiritual name. I don't share that very often because it is something that is sacred and secret to just me and my divinity. And I kind of feel that way about my vow here. So I encourage you all to take time and write down some of these thoughts and write down how your vow could relate or how you could incorporate these aspects, these elementals. My hair looks like a Q-tip today. I am so sorry. And really kind of give some serious thought to it and don't rush through it. I think a lot of times in the pressures of today, we tend to rush through a lot of these activities, and that's not a good thing. This kind of thing is very serious, and you want to take it very seriously. There was one other thing I wanted to cover in this video before I end it, so let me do that. It was in the talk of symbols and symbology within the practice of witchcraft and within life itself. And one of the things that Mr. Roderick talks about is the inverted pentagram. And a lot of people, even those within the occult community, have referred to this as a symbol of dark magic, and that irks the P-wall anatomy. One of the people, Sarah Delphi, in her tarot teaching course, when she's talking about the devil card, and she says it's the, she specifically states there is an inverted pentagram, which is a symbol of dark magic. And that freaking made me want to stand up and because it is not a symbol of dark magic. I don't think that there's dark and light magic. There's malediction, there's benediction, but magic is magic. It doesn't have a color. It doesn't have, and there's positive, there's two sides to everything. I don't even want to say positive and negative because that opens out all kinds of things. But there is two sides of every coin. And I think that when we as occult practitioners forward these kinds of stereotypical beliefs or thoughts, it's something that is very negative, and it shades the way you divine the cards, frankly. So what he points out here is that in traditional terms, the inverted pentagram is intended to represent the descent of spirit into the material world. And now that can totally change the way you interpret the devil card, by the way. So keep that in mind. But anyway, going over that, he talks about how people have hijacked this sign. And so when we are thinking about the inverted pentagram, which is part of the sigil of the second degree, he asks us to consider a few questions. The first of which being, do I have some gut level reaction to the inverted pentagram? And if so, what is it? My gut level reaction in terms of a negative gut level reaction, no. I try not to have a gut level reaction to any symbol that I see, because I understand very intimately that symbols are often hijacked by groups of people. For example, many people have a gut reaction to the swastika, and when they see it, they get very upset. And if you're of a certain religious persuasion, I can understand why that would be. But what people need to understand is that that symbol was not originally a negative symbol. It was a spiritual symbol that represented something sacred, and it was hijacked by the Nazi movement during the 1940s, and it was turned into something that is now associated with absolute evil and indefensible actions towards a group of other human beings, several groups of other human beings. Actually, gypsies are included in that, which is people who practiced the occult, but not in the way that that particular group felt they should, that sort of thing. And so it was something that was very much hijacked and has been turned into something that it totally never initially represented. And so I feel the same way about the pentagram, about the Baphomet, about many different symbols, especially symbols used in witchcraft. So I don't really have a gut level reaction to any specific symbol anymore. I did very much when I was younger because I had been brainwashed, to put it mildly, but I have been taught that these things were bad, and without really looking into the history of it and taking on some knowledge of it and asking questions about it. And it's because of that that I feel it's so important for us to go out within the community and educate people, because many people do have gut level reactions to these symbols and they freak out over it. What are some of the influences in my life that may have contributed to my reactions? Well, as I just mentioned, my staunch Christian upbringing as a child really gave me a very negative response to the Baphomet when I first saw it, because I was taught that it was evil and devil worship. And now that I understand that there is no devil in the craft, as they say in the movie Practical Magic, it's very much true. Satan is a Judeo-Christian ideal, primarily a Christian ideal, and is actually a bastardization of the god Cernunnos, Hern, Pan. My view being that those are really all the same god, just different aspects or recognitions of the god, the male energy of the divine. Is the reaction warranted? Often people's gut reactions to things are knee-jerk, emotional, and not warranted. So I'm begging you all to please never take a knee-jerk reaction to anything that happens in life. Step back, take a close look at what it could really mean, and consider these things from multiple aspects. How might holding on to my reactions affect the outcomes of my magical working in general terms? If you hang on to preconceived notions, and there are things about those preconceived notions that are not necessarily true, it's always going to negatively affect your magic, because you're operating from a platform of prejudice. So I would ask you to please step back and take a closer look and consider those things, because the way you think about them influences your use or the energy that gets aligned with those things. And so we really need to be far more careful in taking a knee-jerk reaction to anything or a gut reaction. Please, please, please reconsider that and be willing to see those things in new light, especially as we step forward as a group to take on the second year elevation. I wish you all many, many blessings. Thank you for sharing this second year journey of a year and a day with me. I hope that many of you will go ahead and go forward with the second year elevation ritual. I look forward to seeing you all's blog posts and response and postings and things, because we are a community. We are a family. all of us, we are united, we are interconnected, we are a system, and we need to go forward with our beliefs and share those openly with love and in perfect trust with one another. So please, thank you again for joining, and blessed be.